I received the email at 0211. Project terminated. Retrieve all living specimens. I stood in the clean room, listening to the air filters hiss like a slow verdict. Pichu played inside its habitat, unaware its world was about to be sealed with a red stamp. When people lie, it's not the words that betray them first, it's their hands. I opened the records cabinet, took out blank sheets, and started softening the data the way insiders do. Not deleting it, just making it harder to see. Pichu looked up at me. It couldn't read the screen, but it could sense the air had changed. Pichu had a strange habit. It picked up whatever humans dropped. Screws, thin metal shards, copper wire tips, and hid them under its feeder tray. I used to think it was meaningless, until that night when the magnetic locks began to glitch and its trash turned into a toolkit. I watched through the glass. It wasn't playing, it was building. 0340. The hallway lights came on. 4 figures in high-level hazmat suits moved slowly, the kind of walk that comes from certainty. I didn't argue. I pulled the safety door shut, threw the bolts, and hit emergency mode. The silence got so tight, I could hear Pichu's cheeks crackle like a ticking clock. If they got inside, they would take it. Not as a living being, as property. I triggered a secondary exit. It needed the correct electrical signature. My card didn't have the clearance. I looked at Pichu. It looked back. Not begging, not asking. It crawled out, pressed its cheek to the sensor, and sent its current through like a living fingerprint. The door opened with a tiny click, so small I was afraid it wasn't real. The technical corridor was narrow. Red lights pulsed. The air was cold and dry. Metal surfaces reflected everything like broken mirrors. I wrapped Pichu in my clean room coat, pressed it to my chest to hide the sound of static, and moved. I didn't know if I was saving it or dragging it into something worse. I only knew the lab wasn't nurturing anymore. It was hunting. The corridor tightened around me. My shoulders scraped the walls at every turn. Inside my coat, Pichu trembled, not from cold, but because it could hear the power lines like the heartbeat of the building. I didn't look back. I only listened. The retrieval team's steps were counting distance with patience. The next lock was old style. No card, no keypad, only electrical signature. My palm pressed the cold metal. Then Pichu slid out, pressed its cheek to the sensor. A faint arc ran across. The door opened. I pulled it back into my arms immediately, as if I was pulling a secret into my chest. We fell into the evidence storage room. Sealed boxes, clear bags, coated crates. On one shelf were things that made my throat tighten. Burned cables, a shattered coil, and a blue electric stone behind thick glass. I didn't name it out loud. I only knew, if we were cornered, that stone was a way at and a sin. The alarm shifted to red. The building began to close like a trap. Far away, security doors slammed shut in sequence like giant jaws. Pichu shook violently, then stared at the stone. It didn't wait for my decision. It chose. The light flared, and the thing in my coat was no longer Pichu. Pikachu gasped for air, fur standing like charged needles. It didn't celebrate. Its eyes searched the room for escape, and I felt something cold inside me. This wasn't growing up. This was being forced to grow. We ran. Every step on the steel floor rang like a beacon. At an intersection, the lights died, a manufactured darkness. I heard them closing in. No way back. Pikachu stood in front of me. Its cheeks glowed like burning coals. A short burst of electricity snapped outward, not to kill, but to blind sensors and disrupt comms. We slipped through the opening in a single heartbeat. The secondary exit was ahead, but the shielded door was too thick. Pikachu could only heat it, not open it. Beside it was an old locker, high voltage warning, a compartment sealed with lead. I broke the seal. I took the second stone. This time I said nothing. I placed it in front of Pikachu like a question I was afraid to answer. Light swallowed the room. Not beautiful light, the light of a decision that cannot be undone. When it stood up, it was different, heavier, denser, and its gaze colder. Raichu turned to me for one brief second, not asking permission, as if saying, "From now on, if we want to live, we break the rules." We passed through an old storage room. Screens were still running forgotten files. A note flashed, "Raichu, Alolan variant." A blurred image, Raichu floating, riding its own tail. No time to understand, but enough time to realize the project was larger than I thought, and we had just escaped something that wasn't only human. We reached the maintenance shaft to the surface. The air changed. Less metal, more damp street dust. I thought I was about to see freedom. Then, Lumiose shook, like reality itself was being pulled sideways. Signs smeared, lights stretched into trails. A purple tear opened in the street, like a mouth. I didn't want to step in, but the retrieval team was right behind us. Raichu didn't hesitate. It pulled me forward, as if it could read the rift's rhythm the way it read electrical currents in walls. We fell into a different Lumiose, silent, colder. Every surface reflected at the wrong angle. A city snapped out of reality. On the shattered glass of hyperspace, I saw Raichu's shadow split into two. One shadow felt heavy, as if it could lift the ground itself. The other was sharp, like a blade of electricity vibrating in the air. The terrifying part was this. Both shadows belonged to the same creature. Only the shape it would choose was different. At the center of the warped plaza, a pedestal held two glowing crystals, two keys I had never seen in any official catalog. A cracked display flashed once, then vanished. Mega Raichu X, Mega Raichu Y. I understood. They didn't want Pichu, not Pikachu, not even Raichu. They wanted this, a path of evolution so dangerous its mere existence could start a war. Raichu touched the first crystal. Its body changed proportion before power. Its tail split into two symmetrical poles. Electromagnetic force lifted it slightly off the ground. Under the fur, the tissue looked denser, built to contain high output without tearing itself apart. Then its hands became weapons. Electricity compressed into the fist. The first punch detonated like lightning trapped in a sealed room. This was Mega Raichu X. Still Raichu in silhouette, but heavier, harder, and ending fights in a single strike. Then it touched the second crystal. Everything changed tempo. Mega Raichu Y didn't grow heavier. It became leaner, sharper. It looked like a memory pulled backward toward Pikachu, smaller, tighter, more lethal. Its cheek pouches swelled with overload. Energy ran in zigzag patterns between tail and the raised fur crest like horns. It didn't charge in to punch. It burst to execute, short electric blades winning in one moment. If Mega Raichu X is remembered for twin tails, electromagnetic lift, and thunder fists, Mega Raichu Y haunts you for overloaded cheeks, horn-like crest, and zigzag arcs circling its head. I grabbed Raichu and pulled it toward the still open tear. I didn't want to see any more forms. Before stepping out, it looked back at me, a gaze almost human but never belonging to humans. We jumped through the tear. On the other side, Lumiose was bright again. Cars moved, people walked. No one knew a retrieval had failed. and that something far bigger had slipped out with me.
Explore more incredible Pokémon stories right here on our channel. Thank you so much for watching.